Jellyfish. At the mere mention of the name, most of us imagine shapeless, rubbery and even disgusting creatures. In any case, there's something we do not wish to touch. It isn't until we see them underwater that they transform into graceful beings. In the course of evolution, jellyfish have developed unbelievably clever skills and have conquered every habitat in our oceans. To protect themselves, they've developed weapons that can also become dangerous to humans. Most jellyfish are not a threatened species. In the large family of jellyfish, this box jellyfish is the most dangerous. Closely followed by this siphonophore, the Portuguese man of war. For most of us, the word jellyfish evokes negative feelings. The term medusas is more appropriate, and it gives it the feel of a mysterious and dangerous beauty. This is Dr. Gerhard Jarms, one of the most knowledgeable experts on medusas. He will be introducing us to the unusual life cycle of these animals. A beach in Eckernförde on the Baltic coast. Numerous Aurelias have been washed ashore. Touching? No problem. Aurelias do not sting. For these two young boys, the jellyfish are a welcome change from their boring sun-tanning monotony. Gerhard Jarms on the creation and development of medusas. Most people feel disgusted by these animals, but in reality they are smooth, soft, and what's even more interesting, their history goes back 500 million years. During this time they have developed the most fascinating shapes and most interesting lifestyles. They live both in the deep sea and here on the Baltic coastline. If we ignore for a moment the massive influxes of medusas on the coasts of the North Sea and Baltic Sea from time to time, the oceans are not necessarily packed with medusas, even if these images make it look that way. Where do medusas come from? How and where do they reproduce? The life cycle of jellyfish or medusas is characterized by a shift from one generation to the next, and by a change between the sessile and the free-swimming states. These Aurelias have separate males and females, but their young are quite unique. The female distributes tiny larvae in the water, and they then attach themselves to anything suitable. These tiny 8-armed discs, which are trying to free themselves from a sessile polyp with all their might, are tiny medusas. But before they get to this point, about 14 days have passed, and this polyp originally looked quite different. Recording this process requires sophisticated technology and filming techniques. Jarms documents the individual stages with an endo camera in his laboratory at the Zoological Institute of Hamburg University. The original medusa larvae have produced a polyp, which bears no relation to medusas at all. By the way, the sole purpose of this polyp is to catch food. Not until the polyp colony has reached an optimum state of nutrition can the separation process begin. The polyps have changed completely and now look like little fur cones. The separation process of the tiny medusas is called strobulation, which comes from the Greek for fur cone. These tiny discs will later develop into large medusas, but only around 1% of them will survive. The rest will become prey. These tiny medusas are already perfectly equipped. Between the tiny arms, they have a number of different sensory organs, with which they can see, taste, and also control their position in the water. The gelatinous animals consist of 98% water. The life cycle of a medusa can be from 1 to 30 years, depending on the species. During this time, they can grow up to 200 times their initial size. But there are also others that like to feed on plankton, basking sharks, for example. Just like the Aurelias, these 10-metre-long sharks prefer animal plankton that they filter through their giant gills. The Aurelias are also part of the menu of the basking sharks. The more, the better.